Welcome back, students. Today we are going to resume our classes for chemistry, and in today's class I am going to have a revision for your solution chapter, as I have uploaded some of the videos for your solution chapter. So I am going to have a quick recap for that chapter, and after that we will continue from the topics where we have where I have stopped in the last online classes. Okay. So let's start today's class by a revision of this solution chapter. So as you know that chapter 2 for chemistry is solution. Okay, it is solution here. So here, if I'm going to talk about the solution, then what is a solution? The first thing which comes in your mind is that what is a solution? How we can define a solution? So a solution is a homogeneous mixture is a homogeneous mixture whose components can be varied in the composition under certain limits. Okay, under certain limits we can vary the composition of the components present in a solution. Okay, so as you all know that homogeneous mixture, what is a homogeneous mixture? A homogeneous mixture is nothing other than a mixture in which the components are very much difficult to be distinguished easily. Okay, after making the mixture, it is very much difficult to distinguish the components which are present in this type of mixtures. Okay, so difficult to distinguish the components. Okay, distinguish the components. That type of mixtures are known as homogeneous mixture. So our solution is also a homogeneous mixture. Before classes we have also studied about this type of mixtures: homogeneous mixture, heterogeneous mixture, and in homogeneous mixture we have studied about the solutions also in our previous classes. Okay, so if I am going to classify a solution, okay, if I am going to classify the solution on the basis of the number of the components, okay, if I am going to classify the solutions, I'm going to classify the solutions on basis of number of components. Then how we are going to classify them? We are going to classify them on the basis of the number of components. Then the first type of solution will be binary solution. It will be binary solution. What is a binary solution? Nothing other than two types of solution. Means a solution containing two components only. Binary, okay, means two. So here two components will be present there. That type of solution will be known as binary solution. Second is the ternary solution. Ternary solution in which three components will be there. Okay, out of which two can be solvent and one can be solute, or two can be solute and one can be solvent. Like this, the ratio can be varied out there. But in case of binary, one will be solute and the next one will be the solvent. Okay, but in case of ternary, this ratio can be changed out. It can be one solute, two solvents, or two solutes and one solvent. Okay, next, the third can be quaternary solution. quaternary solution in which four components can be there. Okay, quaternary solution. So on the basis of the number of the components of the solution, we can classify them on the further these types: binary, ternary, and quaternary. Next, what is a solvent and what is a solution? A solute, sorry. What are the components of a solution? So there are generally two components of a solution. Okay, there are two components of a solution. Which two components? I am not saying about that binary, ternary, and according to that, I am not saying that. What are the two components? Okay, how, what we can call them? So for a solution, we can have majorly two types of components. Okay, not two components, two types of component. One type of component can be the solute component, and the other one can be the solvent component. What is the solute component and what is the solvent component? The substance or the component which is in lesser amount in the solution, okay, which is in lesser amount in the solution is solute, and the substance which is in larger amount in the solution is the solvent. Okay, so the amount of the substance which is larger, it will be the solvent, and the amount of the substance which is lesser, it will be the solute. Okay, let's continue and see what are the different types of solutions on the basis of the type of component which has been taken out there. Okay, type of component which has been taken out there. So if I am going to see the types of solution, types of solution, number one, gas plus gas solution. Okay, the type of solution can be gas plus gas solution. Example, if we are going to take an example here, so mixture of oxygen and nitrogen gas, mixture of different types of gases in our air. Okay, this can be considered as a gas plus gas solution. Next, gas plus liquid solution. Okay, gas plus liquid, where gas is acting as solvent, and here this the second component which I am writing, it is the solute here. The first component is always the solvent. Okay, so gas plus liquid means solvent is gas and liquid is the solute here. So here you can take the example for chloroform. Okay, chloroform with CHCl3. Chloroform means its chemical formula is CHCl3 mixed with nitrogen gas. Okay, that can be example for your solution for a gas and liquid. Next, the third type of solution can be gas plus solid, where solvent is gas and solute is solid. Then here the example can be camphor in nitrogen gas. Camphor, okay. The kapoor, in Hindi we call it as kapoor. When it is been dissolved in nitrogen gas, it is an example for your solid with gas. Okay, where solid is solute and gas is the solvent. Next, liquid. Now I am going to take liquid as solvent. So for that, liquid plus gas. So a very common example is there: carbonated water or soda water, or the thumbs up, limca, all these types of drinks which we use. Okay, so they are having carbon dioxide dissolved in them. So carbon dioxide is a gas which has been dissolved in liquid form water. Okay, so that type of drinks which is containing dissolved carbon dioxide is known as carbonated water, and that is an example for your liquid solvent and gas solute there. Next, liquid plus liquid means solvent is also liquid here and the solute is also liquid here. In this type, we can take the example of ethanol or methanol with water. Okay, CHOH, CH2, C2H5OH or CH3OH with water. CH3OH with water. Okay, this is an example of your liquid with liquid, liquid solvent with liquid solute. Next, liquid with solid solute, liquid solvent with solid solute. Here the example can be sucrose or salt with water, sucrose or salt with water. Simple, we can say that sharbat, in Hindi we call it as sharbat. Okay, so that is an example for your liquid plus solid. Or salty water. Okay, if I am taking one tablespoon of salt and mixing it with 1 glass water, then it is an example of your liquid plus solid solvent solute solution. Next is the solid plus gas solution. Here solid is solvent and gas is the solute here. So the example here can be the catalysts such as palladium, okay, or platinum. All this can be example for your solution of a solid with gas. So here the palladium has the property to absorb, not absorb the hydrogens present near about it, okay, in the air. It generally absorbs it on the uppermost layer of the palladium or platinum and captures it there. It has a property. So this type of solution here formed where solvent is the solid, okay, the palladium which is acting here as a solvent, and the gas which is hydrogen gas here, it acts as a solute here, and it gets adsorbed on the surface of the palladium. Okay, so due to this property only, the palladium is used as a catalyst for the hydrogenation process. Okay, for the hydrogenation process it is been used as a catalyst. Next is the solid solvent and liquid solute. So here the example can be mercury with sodium, amalgamation. Okay, the method of amalgamation. What is this amalgamation? It means reaction of mercury with any other metal. Okay, reaction of mercury with any other metal where it corrodes the metal. Okay, where generally mercury corrodes the metal. So this is a type of solid plus liquid solution. Okay, because mercury is liquid here, and very small amount of mercury will be required in order to amalgamate any other metal, such as aluminium. Generally aluminium has been one of the known amalgamation happened with aluminium of the mercury there. Okay, next, and the last one is the solid plus solid solution. Okay, solid plus solid solution. So here the example is alloys. Okay, alloys, generally they are known as interstitial solutions. Okay, we call them as interstitial solutions, and the example is alloys such as brass, bronze, okay, alnico, or magnesium. All these are examples for your solid plus solid solution. Okay, let's move further. And after this classification of solids, mean solutions, on the basis of the types of component which are consisted there, let's continue with the next topic, which is the solubility of gases and solids in liquids. Okay, solubility of gases in liquids. First we have to cover this, then after that we will see also the solubility of solids in liquids. Okay, so first I am going to take the solubility of gases in liquids. So here volume of the gas, okay, that can dissolve in a fixed volume of liquid. What is the solubility of gas in liquid? First we have to define this thing. So the definition here becomes that volume of the gas which I can take in centimeter cube, okay, whose unit can be taken as centimeter cube, which will be in STP, standard temperature and pressure, okay, at STP, that can dissolve, that can dissolve in a fixed volume of, the liquid to form, in the fixed volume of the liquid to form the saturated solution at a given temperature. Okay, saturated solution at a given temperature. Then a question arises here: what is the saturated solution? Okay, so a solution in which no more solute can be taken out more. Okay, no more amount of solution can be, no more amount of solute can be dissolved. That type of solution is called as saturated solution. Okay, so the volume of gas which can be dissolved in a fixed volume of the liquid, where we can form a saturated solution at a given temperature. This is known as the solubility of gas. Okay, this will be termed as the solubility of gas. How we can, unit, using what unit we can define the solubility of a gas in liquid? So the unit here we will be using is the molarity. Okay, the basis or the fundamental basis of the definition of the solubility of gas will be the molarity or the mole fraction of the gas present in that particular solution. Okay, so by using the molarity or mole fraction of the gas, mole fraction of the gas, we can express the solubility of gases. Okay, we can express the solubility of gases. Now, what are the factors on which the solubility of gases will depend? Okay, factors on which solubility of gases depends. So let's talk about the factors on which the solubility of gases depends. First, first is the nature of the gas. First is the nature of the gas and the solvent. Okay, means both the nature of the gas as well as the nature of the solvent, both will be responsible for the solubility of gas here. Okay, so if we are taking any gas which are more reactive, okay, which are more reactive, or whose solubility will be uh, 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 highly depending on the reaction type which it is performing, then that type of gases will be readily dissolving in a liquid. Okay, because they are more reactive. But the gases which are less reactive, they will take more time to dissolve in the particular in a particular solvent. Okay, so this will be an example here. For example, if I am taking a polar gas, example HCl. Okay, HCl. Here HCl will be polar because it is having, the H is having very small amount of positive charge, partial positive and partial negative will be there on the chlorine atom there. Okay, so due to this reason they will be acting as a polar gas here, and this type of polar gas will be dissolved in polar solvents. Okay, they will be easily dissolved in polar solvents. So polar solvents are generally the solvents such as water, okay, or any other solvent which is having same behavior such as the solutes here, that they will be also having partial negative or partial positive charges on the atoms out of which they are formed out there. Okay, so such kind of solvents will readily dissolve the polar solutes of gases. Okay, similarly, Similarly, if we are taking non-polar gases, okay, such as pure nitrogen or pure oxygen, so this type of gases will require non-polar solvents then in order to get dissolved. Okay, in order to get dissolved out, we will be requiring non-polar solvents there for them to get dissolved. So the nature here, it will be polar and non-polar. Okay. Now next is the effect of temperature. The second factor on which the solubility of gases will depend is the effect of temperature. Effect of temperature. So if I am going to take out a reaction, if I am considering that the formation of solution of gas with liquid is a type of reaction, so there we can say that gases are reacting with liquids to form solution, and in this type of solution formation, heat will be released out, means it is a type of exothermic reaction. Okay, here when solution is formed, heat will be released out here, so it is a type of exothermic reaction. If I am going to talk about the Lee-Chatelier's principle, which we have studied in our 11th class, so the Lee-Chatelier's principle has said that the direction of reaction the direction of reaction changes to the side where exothermic reaction is taking place. Not exothermic, sorry. Where endothermic reaction is taking place. Okay, where endothermic reaction is taking place. Okay, so according to this, if I am on raising the temperature, on raising the temperature, the condition is that if I am raising the temperature of a given chemical reaction, then the reaction will shift towards the direction where the endothermic reaction is taking place. So here, if I am seeing this reaction here, the endothermic reaction is taking place in the backward direction. Okay, in the backward direction, there it is endothermic reaction, and in the forward direction, it is a exothermic reaction. Okay, so hence here, if I am increasing the temperature, then what will happen? The chemical reaction will shift towards the backward direction, which is not the favorable direction for me here, because here I want to form the solution, and if solution is getting back converted to the gases and liquids here, then it is not favorable for me here, because I want the solution here as a product. Okay, so hence here it is not favorable for me. Okay, it is not favorable for me. Next is the effect of pressure. Effect of pressure. Okay, so if I am going to take out here that what is the effect of pressure on the gases, then I will see that the amount of, let's say I am taking a jar here, which is having normal pressure as to that of the atmosphere, and I have taken out a solvent here, and as solute I have taken gas particles. I have taken gas particles. So what will happen, as the pressure is normal here, no extra pressure is there. So what will happen here, the gas particles which are being dissolved in the liquid, they will readily get vaporized. Okay, they will readily get vaporized as they are dissolved. Okay, so here we will see that the amount of dissolving of gas here is very low. Okay, here the amount of gas dissolving gas is very low. But if I am taking a jar where I have increased out the pressure, where the pressure is high as a comparison to that of the atmosphere, then in that condition I will see that the solubility of the gas particles is increased, because the pressure which is being exerted there, it will increase the amount of gas particles to get dissolved in the liquid, and the vaporization of this gas particle from the liquid solution will get lowered up, and due to this reason we will see that the solubility of gas has been increased out here. So this phenomena is only used in your carbonated water. You can see that when you open the cap of a carbonated water, means soda water. Okay, so what happens, foams comes out there. Okay, it readily moves away from the bottle there. So what is the reason behind it? The reason behind it is that there the gas, CO2 gas, is been first brought out to a very high pressure, and then after that it is been dissolved in that particular liquid. Okay, so hence on increasing the pressure, the solubility of the gases increases. Okay, on increasing the pressure, the solubility of the gases increases. So on the basis of this phenomenon, on the effect of this pressure only, one law has been proposed out. Okay, one law has been proposed out. So let's talk about that law. So that law is known as Henry's law. Okay, this law is known as Henry's law. What is this Henry's law? What does this Henry law states? This Henry law states that the mass of a gas, the mass of a gas dissolved per unit, okay, dissolved per unit volume of the dissolved per unit volume of the solvent, per unit volume of the solvent at a constant temperature, at a constant temperature is directly proportional, to the pressure of the gas, to the pressure of gas in equilibrium with solution, in equilibrium with solution. Okay, so the mass of a gas dissolved per unit volume of the solvent at a constant temperature is directly proportional to the pressure of gas in equilibrium with the solution. Okay, so the condition where the gas comes in equilibrium with the solution, okay, with the pressure where comes in equilibrium with the that of the solution, then in that particular condition, there at constant temperature, the mass of the gas will be directly proportional to the pressure there. Okay, it will be directly proportional to the pressure here. So if I am removing this proportional sign here, then the relation will become k into p, where k is the constant of proportionality here. Okay, where k is the constant of proportionality here, and which depends on the nature of the gas, nature of the solvent. Okay, here k will depend on nature of gas means the solute, and solvent. Also on temperature, it will also depend on the temperature and the pressure also, and the pressure exerted here also. On these all factors, it will be depending out. Now, according to the Dalton's partial pressure funda, okay, partial pressure law. Okay, according to this law, the mole fraction is directly proportional to the partial pressure. Okay, so if I am removing the proportional sign here, then here one more constant will be added, which is denoted by k dash here. Okay, k dash p. So here, if I am going to take out the value of p here, okay, if I am going to calculate the value for p here, then the value becomes p is equals to mole fraction divided by k dash. And this k dash means 1 by k dash. It is been denoted as kh, which is known as Henry's law constant. This kh is known as Henry's law constant. Okay, this is only the Henry's law constant. Then the formula for P, partial pressure, becomes kh into mole fraction. Okay, kh into mole fraction. So this is your Henry's law. Okay, so according to this particular formula, we can state that the partial pressure of the gas in the vapor phase, okay, the partial pressure of the gas in the vapor phase is directly proportional to the mole fraction of gas in solution. Okay, to the mole fraction of gas in solution. So this is our Henry's law. Okay, so different values for Henry's law is been proposed out, and as it depends on the temperature and pressure. So if okay, one thing I more want to take here, the SI unit of Henry law means kh is generally taken in atm or in bar. Okay, it is generally taken in atm, atmospheric pressure, or in bar. Okay, next, if I am taking some of the values for the kh for different gases such as helium at 293 Kelvin temperature, the kh value becomes 144.97. For CO2 at 298 Kelvin, it is been recorded as 1.67 kilobar. Okay, all these are the values are in kilobar. Okay, next, for hydrogen at 293 Kelvin, it is 69.16 kilobars, and to 293, 76.48 kilobars. Okay, like this, many more values are there. But here you can see that according to the nature of the gas and according to the temperature. Okay, if I am taking example for your N2, I am taking one more temperature at 303 Kelvin. The value of KH will increase 88.48 kilobar. Okay, similarly for oxygen at 293 and for oxygen at 303 Kelvin, we will see that the values will change. Here the value will become 34.86 and 46.82 value. Kilobars, all are in kilobars. Okay, so here with the increase in temperature, we can see that the kh value has also been increased. The constant value, the Henry's law constant value, has also been increased out. Okay, but for CO2 it is very less here. For CO2 it is very less. For methane it is more or less 0.413. At 298 Kelvin methane it is 0.413. For formaldehyde it is more or less, that is 1.83 into 10 to the power minus 5. Okay, so what does this value for value of KH shows here? What does this value for KH shows here? The lower the value of KH, the more the solubility. Okay, the rule here is that the lower the value of KH, the higher will be the solubility of that particular gas in the liquids. Okay, so on the basis of this funda, that the lower the KH value, higher the solubility in liquid of that particular gas. So on the basis of this only, I can take a question here that aquatic species, aquatic animals feels more comfortable at winter season than in summer season underwater. Okay, underwater they feel more comfortable in winter season as comparison to that in summer season. So what is the reason behind this? So generally, as I have told you and showed you before also, that on increasing the temperature the KH value increases. So in summer season the temperature of the water increases, and due to this reason the solubility of the oxygen in the water decreases, due to which they feel uncomfortable there. Similarly, during the winter season, the temperature of the water decreases, due to which what happens, the solubility of oxygen increases. The KH of the value, the KH value for the oxygen decreases, and hence the solubility of oxygen increases, and hence they feel more comfortable during winter season as comparison to that of their summer season. The next topic here is the solubility of solids in liquid. Okay, so solubility of solid in liquid, how we have to calculate the solubility of solids in liquid? So the solution which has been formed by the solid solvents and solid solute and liquid as solvent, there dissolution is taken place. Okay, what is this dissolution? When the solid which is added to the solvents, that dissolves in the liquid. Okay, that dissolves in the liquid, then dissolution is taken out there. Okay, that process is known as dissolution. And there are two types of solutions for solids with liquid. Okay, one is the saturated solution and another one is the unsaturated solution. What is a saturated solution and what is unsaturated solution? A solution in which no more solid solvent can be added, no more solid solvents can be added, is known as saturated solution. And a solution in which more solid solvents can be added is an unsaturated solution. Okay, it is an unsaturated solution. Okay, now what are the factors on which this solubility of the solids will depend? So first factor is the nature of the solid, and solvent there, nature of the solid and solvent there. Okay, so here we are going to use a basic rule, like solutes like. Okay, a like dissolves like. Okay, so on the basis of this, polar solutes will be dissolved in polar solvents and non-polar solutes will be dissolved in non-polar solvents. The same rule which we have followed out in the gases also. Okay, like dissolves like means polar types of solutes will be dissolved in polar types of solvents, and non-polar types of solutes will be dissolved out in non-polar types of solvents. Okay, polar solute in polar solvents. dissolves in polar solvents. Non-polar solutes dissolves in non-polar solvents. Okay, non-polar solutes will be dissolved out in non-polar solvents. Okay, next is the effect of temperature. Next is the effect of temperature. If I am increasing the temperature here in this case, what will happen? The intermolecular space of liquid decreases here. Okay, the intermolecular phase, space of the liquid decreases here, and what will happen due to this? Intermolecular space of liquid decreases, and due to this, saturated solutions can be converted to unsaturated. Okay, saturated solution can be converted to saturated. Unsaturated means more solvent can be added out in that solution. Okay, so this happens, and hence the solubility of solid increases here. We can say that the solubility of solid will increase here. And the last factor on which it will depend is the effect of pressure. So here it will just reversed out as comparison to that of the gases case. Here, on increasing the pressure, the intermolecular space between the liquid, okay, the intermolecular space here decreases, space decreases, and hence solubility also decreases. Solubility of solid decreases. Okay, solubility of solid also decreases. Okay, but in case of gas, what has been happened? On increasing the pressure, the solubility was increasing, and on increasing the temperature, it was decreasing. But in case of solids, it is just opposite to that of the gases case. On increasing the temperature, the solubility will increase, and on decreasing the on increasing the pressure, it will decrease out. Okay, so this was for today's session. We will continue more. Okay, and discuss about the vapor pressure and the different topics related to that vapor pressure in the next session. Okay, so thank you for now. We will continue in the next session. Thank you.